following video is not endorsed by Diveheart. Hi everyone, Lewis here, and I'm here with my newest and latest interview. I am going to be interviewing the director of the documentary Adapting to Dive. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for alerts of when I upload new content to the channel, especially those with disabilities similar to mine. I will be talking to filmmaker David Marsh, who went with my friends from Diveheart to Cozumel last December to film his documentary Adapting to Dive, which is now available to stream and watch on Amazon Prime. And I will also be joined by CEO and founder of Diveheart himself, Jim Elliott. Wait till you see what David has to offer and what he mentions in my interview. Alright, I'm now joined by the David Marsh, the producer of Adapting to Dive and my pal, as well as the CEO and founder of Diveheart, Jim Elliott. How are you, David?
I'm doing so good, Lewis. It's the best day ever. I can't believe I get to finally talk with you in person.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. So, I have a lot to ask. Like, what inspired you to make this video?
So, Lewis, I was on a scuba trip in September of last year with my family, and I met Jim Elliott and Tinamarie Hernandez, and we got to talking. I said, what do you do? And they said, we help people have life-changing experiences. And I thought to myself, wow, that's an amazing concept. And so Jim said to me, you know, I don't think there's any chance meetings in life, and I think there's a reason we met. And I went, well, okay, thank you so much for that. And he gave me his business card, and I went, okay, well, maybe we'll talk some other time. But Lewis, I went back home. A few weeks later, I was thinking to myself, I need a life-changing experience. So I reached out to Jim, and I said, Jim, we should do something together. And he said, aha, we should. He said, come to a trip with us in December in Cozumel. And Lewis, that's what I did.
Nice. As you know, I wasn't able to go on that trip because of the pandemic and the fact that it was my sister's 35th birthday and we went to Walt Disney World.
Wow, it sounds like a good time. What'd you do in Walt Disney World?
Stayed there while you were there for the rest of the week. Of course, that was my, of course, the last time I went there prior to that was actually in 2015 when I went diving, 1 year before I went to Cozumel and met Jim there.
Wonderful. Tell me about Jim Elliott. How long have you known him?
Since 2015. I actually met him on Facebook. Remember, Jim? I found you on Facebook.
Yep, I remember.
And of course, after I found you after I found the story about Nick Johnson, who I'm friends with and is also featured in your documentary.
He is.
Yeah.
Because Nick was a bit younger when that article from WGN was published. That's how I found out about Diveheart.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Okay, I have another question.
Sure.
What was your favorite moment when you filmed this?
Well, I think one of my favorite moments was watching adaptive diver Chris Block. Now, Chris is paralyzed from the armpits down. 80% of his body it doesn't respond the way most of our bodies do. And so Chris, he loves to take his picture, to have his picture being taken. So he'll take his regulator out and he'll have a big smile on his face. And then those of us that are filming him, and Jim, who's standing next or floating next to him under the water, is like, Chris is out, he's got his regulator out and he's smiling. I'm like, okay, I got the picture, put your regulator back in. And Chris will just be smiling. We're like, put your regulator put it back in your mouth. And sometimes instead of going right in his mouth, it'll hit on the side, it'll hit on the other side, it'll hit on the chin. And it gives me a little bit of anxiety. But as he says, he's fine, because the whole time while we're all there breathing heavy, he's just been relaxing. So then he'll pop it in his mouth, and then we'll all have a little bit of like, whew, a moment of relief. That's definitely one of the most.
Excuse me, David. Speaking of Christopher, I actually met him on Facebook. I've yet to meet him in person, though.
Chris Block is
I know about his.
He's a wonderful human being.
I talked to Chris a lot. He's cool. He told me about his accident, and I admit I'm glad he didn't let that bring him down.
That's true. Yes. And Jim, what were you going to say? Something about Chris Block when you were there and he's next to you. You were next to him. I always see the look of anxiety on your face when Chris is trying to put his thing down. You're like, oh.
Yeah. I was going to remind you, Louis, that David is a scuba instructor, so his senses are heightened. His head's on a swivel, and he always is anticipating things. So situational awareness is like part of his DNA, and to look at that stuff, he's like 3 steps ahead of what's going on. So I can understand. The first time Chris did it to me,
wow.
I felt the same.
Yeah.
Wow. Who do you teach scuba diving through? Patty, Nowie, SSI?
Well, I got certified in 2017 as a scuba instructor, and I helped people experience the underwater world and blowing bubbles and having lots of fun. And since then, I've been focusing on filmmaking, and I have not done as much scuba instruction, but I still occasionally will help friends and family get certified.
Even though I am an adaptive diver myself, I'm also a PADI open water diver too, David.
Outstanding. Welcome to the family. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, I've been certified since 2006. I returned to diving in 2015 when I went to Disney World, as I said. And of course, ever since I dove with Jim, I've been getting more dives under my belt. And I'm also a volunteer at the Adventure Aquarium over in Camden, across the river from Philadelphia.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Good job.
And I was recently there this past Tuesday.
Nice. And you've also participated, Louis, in some of the adaptive scenarios that we do when we train buddies, right? You were blind, right?
Yeah, that was during the last trip I was on in 2019.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was strange. It was awkward, but I understand that if you can't see, there's something you can do about it, Just gotta go with the flow. That's why you have help when you're blind.
Yeah. Louis, when I was in Cozumel, I got to see all of the empathy training that the Diveheart organization does with its people that it trains to be adaptive dive buddies. And one of the things that I was really interested in was they would put a mask that was blocked out from being able to see, and they would have to feel how to put together the different components of the first stage and all the different things to hook up a tank, and then they'd have to feel around. And I really realized that the Diveheart training is unique because they want you as an adaptive dive buddy to know, what does it feel like to be a diver that has a different level of challenge. Maybe being blind, that was one of the challenges. Another thing that I noticed was really interesting about the training was they would take people and they would have them hold their arms, and then they would bind their feet together loosely with a strap so they wouldn't be able to kick. And then they would say, well, what would it be like if you were a quadriplegic? And I was really touched with that, just to see what does it feel like. In empathy training, to me, was just a phenomenal thing. So thank you, Jim, for that experience. And what an opportunity for people that are able-bodied folks to get the feeling of what does it feel like to have a level of challenge where you can't move your limbs in that way. And I just thought that was an amazing process.
Louis, before we go much further, I think we should let everyone know that the documentary is on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Yes.
Type in Adapting
it
to
is.
Credit, you'll see it. It's an amazing video. Amazing movie. I hope everyone gets a chance to see it. Yeah.
I was also going to ask you about that. Do you plan to expand to other platforms besides Amazon Prime, like YouTube? Possibly. I mean, Netflix.
Well, at this point, I've uploaded it with a distributor, and they've submitted it out to different platforms. Amazon was the first to pick it up, and so that's the hero of the day currently.
What about the film festivals?
We've also entered it in some film festivals, and hopefully we'll be hearing some good news about things rolling in throughout the next year.
Is Sundance one of them?
It's Sundance.
In my opinion, David, I think this would look good on Netflix, especially because this would be an inspiring and touching story. And of course, when Jim was talking about me experiencing what it's like to be blind, that was because I was auditing the training. Didn't you meet you remember Alexandria? Didn't you meet her during this trip?
I did. She's a wonderful diver. I believe she's in the Galapagos Islands. I had a wonderful time meeting Alex. She's a wonderful human being. I loved meeting her.
I was actually auditing her training at the time. Dale and Debbie, who I met during my second trip in 2017, along with Valerie, they were teaching her and training her.
Oh,
and of course,
you know, Valerie and Dale and Debbie, they're all in the documentary. Such great, wonderful people.
Yes. And when I first met Valerie, she was actually getting certified to dive in 2017. And of course, during that trip, it was sort of a rocky ride. We had our dives delayed. Remember, Jim, because of choppy seas?
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to talk too much. Let's just say it was a bit frustrating for me. But yeah, I mean, and the fact that we also had to deal with things like a swamped dive boat when, of course, spilled all the tourists into the water. But of course, no one got hurt. They did recover the boat, but it did smell like oil though after that little accident. But we were able to get in our dive that afternoon. I was remembering that time. But of course, one of the things we did do that during that trip, one of the things I did with Valerie, we went snorkeling on the southern side of the island. One of the things she did was actually pull out a plastic bottle that was wedged between some rocks. And of course, my mother went with me at that time. And of course, my mother, her name's Yolanda Marinucci. She actually been on these trips. And I got certified to be an adaptive diver through training coordinator Rachel Crane, who I met in 2016. Originally, I was also supposed to go for my advanced diver as a PADI diver, but of course that didn't work out though. But of course, originally my mentor, the one who introduced me to Diveheart, who was also friends with Jim, a woman named Wendy Crown, yeah, she went through a lot. She ruptured her Achilles heel and tore one of her rotator cuffs, which, yeah, that sucked. There was a little bit of drama with me, but I'm not going to get into too much details, though. But the third trip was more like redeeming myself and, enjoying it.
You know, what I really like about Cozumel is it has drift diving. And if you've ever been there, it allows you to move along with the current, and you don't have to do a lot of physical swimming. You can just simply relax and drift along it. So if you've never been to Cozumel, I highly recommend it. I love that the dive.
Yeah, I totally.
It's a beautiful place to go and have the experience. And the dive shop is Dive Paradise that we go with, and they're a really high quality facility. Definitely a 5-star facility.
Right.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, speaking of Dive Paradise, I actually met the woman who ran it before she died. I met her in 2017 at Beneath the Sea, when that was the first time since the 2016 trip I'd connected with Jim and Tinamarie.
Yeah,
in Secaucus.
Currently the general manager is a lady named Laura, and she's actually featured in the documentary as well. So we're very pleased to be able to speak with them. And the former owner of Dive Paradise was a lady named Apple, and Jim knew her personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I met Apple at Beneath the Sea, and I was saddened and heartbroken when she died. Believe me, I took it personal. I didn't know her that well, but I was just, heartbroken when she died, you know?
Well, you know
'Cause
what's
we
neat
barely
about
met
that is they've kept the business in the family. The new owner is Michael, and he's a family member. And I think it's wonderful that they've maintained the family relationship, and they've brought in the best of the best. They just have an excellent staff. Can't say enough good things about Dive Paradise.
And, well, some of the people you feature in your documentary, besides Valerie as well as Chris, I've also met other people such as Rachel Wilson. I met her on Facebook. She's very nice. I hope to meet her one day. And
it was so good. She does recreational therapy with people, gives them the experience of enjoying different things, people that have various levels of challenge. She brought her knowledge, she brought her therapeutic assistance, and Rachel was one of the stars of the movie. Absolutely loved having her in the film.
And then there's, of course, Nick. Of course, I met him in person during the 2016 trip, along with his mother and father, Glenn and Hannah. They're very nice. I like the Johnson family. I mean, Nick is autistic like I am, but of course, sometimes, of course, Nick may get on my nerves, but I still respect him and appreciate him as a friend. I don't think he means to get on my nerves because he doesn't understand, but it does happen, though.
You know, us human beings, if there's one thing we can do is we can get on each other's nerves. So it's nothing better than just to be kind and gentle on yourself and know that we're all going through various levels of challenge. And that's part of one of the things that film's about, is we're all adapting to life. Everybody's got something they're going through. And that's what I learned through the film, is that we're all adapting to dive to something in life. We've all got something we're going through. And part of the inspiration of working with Diveheart is to know that no matter what you're going through, we're all part of the human community and we're all going through something together.
And of course, there's also Ricky Sanchez, who I actually met in 2016 as well. I also last dove with her in 2017. Ricky, I like how she is cool and all, and she's totally amazing. She it was fun diving with her. And then there's also Dennis Poyer, yeah, Dennis. I also met him I dove with him during my 3 trips, and I like Dennis.
All of these folks you're talking about have become family. The group that was there that when we filmed in Cozumel, we got together at the movie premiere recently, and it was like a family reunion. We loved each other. We had so much fun. We got to talk about all the experiences we had and get caught up and tell us how regular life is. And that's the one thing about adapting to dive, is you really see the group of community and the group of family really hitting home the message that we're all in this together.
Yeah, especially with the pandemic, because originally in 2020, I was supposed to go to Key Largo as part of the as a guest under Tinamarie and Jim for the adaptive scuba camp, along with my fellow ambassador, and who was also another quadriplegic, a young woman named Amber Rangel. Yeah, but it never happened. I was bummed, believe me. Yeah. Hopefully one day I'll go to Key Largo, because I really do want to go there, Jim. Don't get me wrong. I love Key Largo.
Well, we can't wait to see you on a trip, Lewis. We think that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, David. And of course, then you also have Lauren and Danny, especially since Lauren and Danny bonded well with my mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah, because I dove with...
Danny was
Danny was one of my...
If there's one thing I learned from Danny, it's how to be so attentive. He would sit there and make sure all of the places were taken care of. Everybody had their buckles on, the mask was, and he just took such a special time. Him and Lauren were really special when they worked with their divers. Such a great group of people.
I was going to say, Danny was one of my buddies during the last time I was in Cozumel. And you know what? One of my favorite things when I'm in Cozumel is the night dives. The night dives. I love the night dives. Because let me tell you this. During my first 2 trips, especially during my first trip, I was a bit rusty with my skills. I was struggling to, stay up. I mean, I was struggling with my buoyancy and air consumption. It took me a while to get the hang of it. And of course, after being, you know, after the hiatus I had from 2007 to 2015, which of course I got certified in 2006, as I said. But of course, things started getting better during my second trip, which of course, as a result of the second trip, I was able to rack up 25 dives, and that's how I joined the Adventure Aquarium, as I mentioned earlier. And then, by the time the third trip came, I was able to control my buoyancy and my air consumption and stay down longer. But of course, then the COVID-19 pandemic comes, and the only time I got to dive in 2020 was actually at the aquarium in February, and then in March before COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, and then I went up to Dutch Springs in September of that year, and then I was out of the water for a year, and then I dove in October of 2021, and then on Christmas Eve at the aquarium, which of course, that was also sort of a sad day for me, because I lost my dog, Potter, because he's old and sick, and I was just struggling. It was just hard on me. But when I went back to the aquarium this past Tuesday, I was a little bit more calm. I felt like I never lost everything. Everything just came back to me suddenly.
Cool. Well, Louis, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I know that, you know, we only have limited time on Zoom, but this has been...
Yeah, I'll wrap up. I'll wrap up with a couple more questions. Like, how long have you been a diver, David?
I did my first dive in 1999, and I did not get certified until 2014. So I did a few discovery dives along the way whenever I would go to a resort destination. And I fell in love with it, and I finally got certified. And then I rapidly progressed through different stages until I went through my my dive instructor in 2017. So I've been an avid diver for a long time.
Do you also free dive too?
I am terrified of free diving. I have nothing but the utmost respect for folks that can do that. But boy, I love having a tank on my back with oxygen. I love being able to go down deep and then come back up and breathe the whole way through.
I do too, but at the same time, I also want to have free diving under my belt. And speaking of that, I'm actually going to get certified to free dive later this summer, because I'm actually working on becoming a professional merman. And yes, I have a tail, David. I'm gonna go get my tail. I'm gonna go get my tail.
Wonderful. While Louis is gone, I'll say that I've seen his tail on his Facebook posts, and it's quite an impressive thing to see. There it is, right there.
Here it is.
Yep. What a man you are, Louis. Congratulations. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, before we wrap this up, I want to ask one last question, which is a combination of two things. What advice do you have for those who might want to get into filmmaking, like myself, who are on the spectrum? And do you plan to do a sequel to this documentary one day? Because if so, I would love to take part in it.
Well, thank you so much. When you do something you love, it doesn't necessarily matter the end result. It matters that you're doing it and you're enjoying yourself along the way. I think that's very important as part of the human experience, to do things that make you feel good, to make you enjoy your life. And as far as a sequel, we don't have any plans right now. But as our journey through this process continues, we'll see what possibilities open up between myself and Diveheart.
Well, in my opinion, the sequel should be called Adapting to Dive 2.
Oh, what a great name. I don't know why you thought, I mean, that's amazing you thought of that.
Well done, sir. We're going to run out of bandwidth, so it was wonderful talking to you.
Yes, it was a pleasure. I was impressed at what David had to mention when he was making this documentary. And even though I wasn't there at the time of the making of this said video, I really enjoyed listening to what David had to say and how much he enjoyed making this video. In the meantime, if you want to see Adapting to Dive, I'll post the links to how to watch it on Amazon Prime, as well as a trailer from the official Diveheart YouTube channel in the description below. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this latest video as part of my Road to Cozumel 2022 series, and I will have a proper review of Adapting to Dive coming soon as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. You can also follow me on Instagram